Welcome everyone to episode number 116. We have Elon's pay package, some live streams that happened this week, literally in the Delaware courts, and of course, a bunch of other Tesla news, which we will get into. To help us better understand what happened this week in the Delaware court, we have our very own Alexandra. How's it going?
It is going well. I'm so pleased to be here. Right, Joe?
Yes,
E-
can confirm she is very pleased to be here.
I am very
Exactly.
pleased to be here.
Hans, Brian, even Alexandra, Joe, how are you guys doing?
Doing great. Busy week. Lot to get through and done with before next month's shareholder meeting. Very exciting.
Yeah. It's gonna be a big month in November. A lot of stuff coming up. All right, well, let's just jump into it. Not that jump into me, but we got kicking off the Tesla beat. Stock is actually like flat week over week, but we are up 15% year to date. So still huge recovery from where it was, especially given, like, I mean, you look at March and May, it was like, and Tim Waltz saying, "Oh, it's going down." You know, I check my my Tesla stock ticker just to get a good kick. Even though he owns some of the stock in his portfolio for as governor. But long story short, it has fully recovered thanks to Tim Waltz. But with that said, Joe, I'll pass this to you to kick us off, and then obviously we'll pass it to Alexandra, and then we also have a clip that we want to show. But kick us off, man.
Yeah, so this was pretty incredible, and thank goodness for Herbert and and the crew for being able to live stream this, because I didn't know where to find the actual court hearing. So thank you, Alexandra, and you guys for doing that. But yeah, no, we got to see how competent the lawyers were, and I put that on there because it was pretty impressive to me. Like Alexandra will mention later, like you just didn't know, you know what I mean? You didn't have a lot of leverage of understanding like where they were. You kind of were like, how are we going to be doing? But after watching this, you're like, holy cow, they nailed it. Go ahead, Alexandra.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're saying it all. It was we went into this Supreme Court oral argument after 7 years of mistreatment in Delaware, right? I mean, since the Tonetta case was introduced, it was just one disaster after the next one, including obviously the two parts of the verdict in 2024, January, when she started, Chancellor McCormick, with does the richest man in the world really deserve more money? And then obviously in December, by finalizing her verdict and including $345 million of attorney fees, an amount that has never been allocated in Delaware ever before. The second highest was in 2011, $178 million, which was already outrageous. And it corresponded to an average hourly rate of $18,000 the hour. So it was just absolutely crazy. And we as Tesla shareholders actually were losing on two, I would even say three accounts. Let me explain. So if we were just given up after the Chancery Court without doing an appeal, we would have had a potential gain of the $3 billion that initially the pay package of Elon cost us, but then reinstating it at today's prices, which would have needed a shareholder vote and everything, cost us about $120 billion. So we're going from something that we paid $3 billion to redo the same thing is now $120 billion. This is an accounting charge. It's not a cash payment, but it has a direct impact quarter after quarter on the earnings per share, because here in America, everything is on GAAP standards, and in GAAP standards, the $120 billion will show up. So it would have been, just unacceptably high. Then obviously the lawyers' fees would have to be paid, $345 million. And then the last thing I hardly ever get to talk about is there is still another case pending in Delaware, and that one is as well in front of the chancellor. So if she maintains to be right on the Tonetta case, that's actually a very bad start for the other case, which is consequentially even more expensive both for Elon personally and for Tesla. So, it was the right decision to appeal. But obviously, whenever you go into an appeal, you don't know whether you're going to win it. And it costs you, because during all this time, interest on the 345 million accrue to the amount of $93,000 a day. So the $345 million by now are about $400 million if it's confirmed. Now, we don't have much insight into the Delaware Supreme Court. It is 5 justices. Delaware is historically, of course, a Democrat state, but they always maintain that on justice level, there is some political equilibrium. So the current composition is 3 Democrat justices and 2 Republican justices, and they're actually seated that way. So if you look at the 5, it is Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, and so no idea how with what we would go in. I've heard so much over the last couple of months from being, people in Delaware telling me, oh, you're going to win this, to people like, don't even try. I mean, the whole spectrum. And from people, that have knowledge of Delaware much more than we will ever have. So, and much more than we would ever want to have. So, went in there and it was live streamed. And yes, we did Wednesday morning with Herbert and Professor Rob Anderson and Richard Hoffman, who's an attorney. This live stream, prepared it half an hour, more or less what I just summed up here, and then afterwards discussed how it went. The live stream itself was about 50 minutes long, which is long. They're usually between 30 and 40. And they have a very precise ritual. It's first the appellant, so Tesla's lawyers who start off with, they have 20 minutes. They can divide those between the different attorneys, because there was an attorney for the directors, meaning Elon, Robin, Ira, and all that. So them personally, because they were attacked personally. Then there was the attorney for Tesla, the company, and then there could have been attorneys for the objectors. We had an objector, Amy, obviously, Amy Steffens, that you all know, SF Tao. She was there with the lawyers, but they decided that the 20 minutes are best used by giving 10 minutes to the lawyer. His name is Michelle, I think was the name, who defended the directors, and 10 minutes for Wolf. We're going to hear him in a second, who defended Tesla. The other objectors were there as well, which is this Florida retail investor who also got then associated with ARK Invest. So they had some representatives there as well. And on the other side, obviously, we had the plaintiffs' attorneys. They were there to fight for their 345 million plus interest. I tell you, they couldn't care about anything else than making sure that they would get their money, because I don't know whether they're already starting to buy houses in the Hamptons, but they certainly want that money. So Tesla had to defend its honor, and I think they did that in the best possible way. I really have the feeling these oral arguments went as well as they could. Tesla's lawyers were professional. They had very well prepared how they used their 10 minutes. 10 minutes is not a lot to convince in such a consequential case that has been dragged on for 7 years and everybody has had an opinion about it, to bring it down and nail it down to the few things that really were wrong. Because that's what it's all about for Tesla, making a wrong right. What had happened to us the last 7 years is just so wrong, and it may continue to be wrong, but they had a chance of 20 minutes to make this right. Now, of course, they had submitted briefs. The justices were extremely well prepared. You will see in the little clip that we're going to play in a second how quickly they jumped into the arguments of the plaintiff's lawyer when the right topic arose for which they had questions prepared. So maybe, John, if you don't mind, let's play that now. So yes, that's the picture, and then the video, I think, do I have to put it up or can you put it up? And let me just set the stage. So we're hearing here the plaintiff's attorney, Mr. Barolo, bringing forward his case why he deserves his 345 million.
Here, hold on. Let me remove it and then add it.
Briefly, to remedy, the trial court found that rescission was reasonable, appropriate, practicable, and uniquely available. Those are all direct quotes from page 198 of the opinion. There were no third-party interests involved here, And the court found as well that this court has held that rescission is the preferred remedy when a breach of the duty of loyalty is found, citing this court's venerable decision in Lynch against Vickers.
Mr. Varallo, number one, how is Mr. Musk put back to the status quo ante after 6 years of achieving what he was asked to achieve? And number two, do you have a case where a court has equitably rescinded an executive's compensation after years of work?
So, Your Honor, to answer your second question first, yes, the case is Valiant versus Journey. It's the closest that our law comes.
That was not rescission, that was disgorgement.
Well, Your Honor, what the court said, and I will quote the court directly, and I'm quoting now from page 752 of Valiant versus Journey, found at 921A second. Because Journey, who is the defendant, has failed to show that this transaction was entirely fair, it is clear he has no right to retain any of the $3 million bonus he received. As between Journey and the company, that payment must be rescinded, period, close quote.
That was a case where a restructuring was aborted and bonuses were awarded to parent company management who would have no involvement in the company going forward. And the court said it was disgorgement. This is rescission, and the court found you didn't seek any other remedies. You abandoned your other remedies. And if we were to determine that rescission isn't appropriate here, aren't you left with nominal damages?
Your Honor, there are two answers to that question. First of all, I have to say that disgorgement and rescission are flip sides of the coin. In a circumstance.
Okay, yeah, we cut it there. I mean, we have the full stream on my X account, and you can watch the whole hour. But you see how this justice, her name is Valihura, she's one of the two Republicans, was well prepared, right? He had his case. He obviously had made that argument before that there have been cases before where there was rescission. Why is it so important to get to this point of the rescission? Because the Chancery Court has said, okay, we're going to resign because this was all not done the way I wanted it to be done. So we're going to go back to 2018. We're going to cancel it all. And then you can set up something new. I mean, the fact that it cost us 120 billion, she left unsaid, but what the heck, right? And then Justice Valihura asks the plaintiff's attorney, said, well, that's all good. We can cancel all the payments, but we can't cancel the 6 years of work that Elon did and the result he achieved. You can't just say these are undone now as well. Let's all start from zero again. And that's where he came with his stupid and well-employed and not well-employed case, saying, yeah, there was one. And also note, he never answered that first part of the question, which was like, how would you make Elon whole for the fact that you can't go back in time, right? They never answered these questions. And if you look very carefully, because I've watched this now, I don't know how many times, all the other four justices were very uncomfortable with his response. They were all moving on their chairs, shaking their heads, whatever. So I think that was the main score we had, but by far not the only one. This was a grave mistake, and I'm sure he's going to have nightmares about this minute for the rest of his life, because those are probably $345 million sailing away into the sunset. Because what she came back with is, if there is no rescission, there is only nominal remuneration, and nominal means for him not 345, much less. And so the question could be, how much less? And Tesla has actually, in those 20 minutes they had, put the upper limit to this amount to 54 million. There's a whole calculation on how to do it, and I'm not even sure that's worth it anymore now, right? Because this is a moving goal as these discussions go. So I think we're on the good path of not having to pay a lot. I mean, it's still going to be too much for what it's worth, but at least we're going there. And actually, my personal feeling is that the plaintiff's attorneys are now going to aim for settlement, because their hope was, their highest hope was that just the Supreme Court confirms they get their 345 million plus interest. And then plan B would have been kick it down to the Chancery Court, where I'm in cozies with the Chancellor, and then I get something out of there. Now, it may actually be possible, I'm not saying this is the case, but there is a chance, and probably a fair chance, that the Supreme Court just cancels the whole case, dismisses it, and they will have to agree on how much each attorney side is going to be paid, and that's going to be it. That was never a solution they were for, of course. And so before getting there, they may actually seek negotiations and a settlement now. So we'll see. We'll see where we are. The question is, when will we hear from them? So the Supreme Court usually, on average last year, gave their verdicts 34 days after oral hearing. So that'll put us in second half of November. But if there is a lot of write-up where they actually argue what was wrong in the Chancery Court and what needed to be reinterpreted and whatever, takes more time. That was usually 78 days. So that would bring us to the end of the year, beginning of January. And that's only the average. Obviously, there are some cases that take much longer and some cases that are much quicker. I don't think it's going to be much quicker, because this is probably one of the most important decisions the Supreme Court ever had to take. So they're gonna need some time for it. The longer it takes, the more I see our chances fading, because there is some political aspect to it. And I'm sorry, I'm getting into this quickly, but it's important. In America, in corporate America, where the large majority of corporations are incorporated in Delaware, proxy season is at the beginning of the year, typically in the second quarter. And so if shareholders want to include any of their proposals, they have to bring them forward in the first quarter of the year so that they're included in those proxies and in those shareholder meeting votes in the second quarter. It's very rare that shareholder meetings are as late as we have it this year in November for Tesla. That is because that special committee for Elon's compensation plan was in place. And so that's really an outlier. All the others have it there. So my guess is that if the verdict goes for Tesla, they can publish it early and then everybody forgets about it and we're happy. If the verdict goes against Tesla, I think there will be an uproar in corporate America. And lots of retail shareholders, but also institutions, will finally understand that incorporating in Delaware is a mistake. And they will want to bring forward shareholder proposals asking the Metas of this world and all these other companies whether the company should move out of Delaware at the shareholder vote. And so to avoid that, the verdict would have to come later than April. So that's why I'm saying if it comes late, it's probably against us, but they bring it out very late so that it's too late for shareholder action in 2026, that people really have to then wait another year for the next shareholder meetings. And so if it comes soon, it's probably positive. If it drags out, it's probably negative. But I have a rather cautiously optimistic opinion about it now.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Hans.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, why is anyone even entertaining the idea that the Supreme Court of Delaware is suicidal enough not to decide in Tesla's favor on this after, I mean, immediately when this was decided, the implication to me was 100% clear that if this case is allowed to stand, the implication is that by incorporating in Delaware, the officers of a company are exposing themselves to undue risk that significantly increases the liability that they have in, a whole number of ways. And like, it's just not even, it's just so blatantly obvious. And of course, everyone in Delaware knows this. They understand this. Their tax revenues have been dropping off of a cliff. And now, not only do the people in the Court of Chancery understand this, but the general citizens of Delaware understand this. Like, I cannot imagine that the political pressure on this court allows for a decision to be made here that would be that suicidal.
I agree with you, Hans, but don't forget what type of Democrat state Delaware is. It would all be, and actually that showed when they voted SB 21. What was SB 21? It was a law that they very quickly put in place after the January 2024 verdict, because they all understood that this was suicidal for their corporate allure, for the fact that people wanted to incorporate in Delaware. So they came up with this new law where they defined what is a controlling stakeholder. Because in Chancellor McCormick's judgment, the superstar CEO, I mean, I don't want to get emotional, but it just drives me crazy. The superstar CEO status made it possible that while you had less than 25%, you were still a controlling shareholder because you were a superstar CEO, right? So that's her argument. And then the lawmakers stepped in and said, stop. It's 33%. And now we have to put a number down. I mean, they tried in SB 21 other things too. They tried to limit attorney fees, but that died 2-3 days after it was proposed. So that making of SB 21 actually showed the different political tendencies in Delaware. And I was highly surprised how much the ultra left wing had to say. Not in the final voting results, because their representation in the House of Delaware is not that high yet, but in the press, in the journalist support they found, in the attorney support they found. I mean, there was a real rollout of propaganda on how glorious the Chancery Court is. We don't need this new law. Delaware is perfect. Chancellor McCormick is the queen. I mean, there was a real battle between the different wings of the Democrat Party in Delaware.
I guess I can understand and expect that, because, you know, what Chancellor McCormick has done is basically given licensure to a, you know, basic pirate colony of plaintiffs' attorneys that are going around raiding all of the corporate coffers that they can find. And so, of course, there's a lot of money in those coffers then to go and try and protect their, you know, pirate monopoly. But it does seem like there's still, at some level, yes, they can make as much noise as they want, but when the rubber meets the road, even the fact that SB 21 passed, like, there are some adults in the room who are not willing to let these loud and obnoxious people they can talk all they want, but they can't actually have their way.
Clearly, and I mean, that's the whole issue with the Chancery Court. The Chancery Court is a court of equity. What does that mean? You don't have a popular jury. You have a judge deciding by him or herself, right? That is the way Delaware was set up, because they found that was the professional way. That way, it wasn't idiots like you and me, retail shareholders, sitting on the bench and sorry, I don't mean any of you idiots. I just talk about myself. Deciding on the outcome of a case. There was the judge, right? And that worked very well while you didn't have activist judges, right? While you had people that came from the business world, and then something happened, and I can't put the finger on when it happened, but there's obviously greed from attorneys, and the fact that Delaware is a really small place where they all know each other. The plaintiff's attorney was actually for more than 30 years a defendant attorney for the corporations, and then a couple of years ago thought, oh, that's not bringing me enough money, switched on sides, found Tornetta. By pure coincidence, we all know Tornetta just knocked on his door and said, look, I have my 9 shares, please help me. We all know this is exactly how it happened, right? And then mounted this case. And then 7 years later, it all peaked in this very moment we just played, right? This is 7 years of puzzle piecing it together. 19,000 hours at $18,000 the hour of piecing this all together to get there. But this is possible. I love it how you laugh, Joe. But this is what the Chancery Court enables, and enables because of 2 judges. The Chancellor herself, which got appointed, I think it's 2021, and a vice chancellor called Travis Lester. Those are the 2 that are dealing with these cases and bringing this idea there and allocating these extremely high attorney fees. Because it may all look ultra leftist until you get to the little point of the payout. Then it suddenly looks very capitalistic. So
I like the fact that she used the exact same compensation structure that she said was not okay for Elon, was the exact same structure for determining how many millions of dollars the plaintiff's attorneys
Sure.
could actually receive.
15% of that, right? 15% of what Elon
Which
wasn't
was
supposed to
far
get.
higher percentage than what Elon got.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
it
it
is
got
for
crazy.
doing nothing other than keeping us occupied. I mean, I was thinking the other day, if we win this case, is it actually a shame because I spent so many hours on this and then it would just been over. But honestly, I'll just be happy that it's over. It's been something. It's been something. So anyway, I think we all had a good moment enjoying this. I don't want to I want to make sure you all know this is not a victory yet, right? They are now deciding on what this is going to be. If this drags out a long time, longer than the first quarter of next year, I think that's bad news. Okay, just let's keep that in mind. If we get it soon, I mean, it would be wonderful if this just closes this whole case. They get to very low attorney fees that we're going to write the check and kiss him goodbye and hope never to hear from him again.
So maybe this is kind of a dumb question too. So a lot of the conversation seems to be about what are the attorneys essentially going to get, right? Does this assume that essentially Elon's going to get his compensation package? Because it seems like we're talking 50 million versus 345 plus interest at 400 million. So is the judgment
Elon will
on...
Elon will get his 2018 compensation package one way or the other. So one way is that this judgment dismisses the Chancery Court's decision and just says, it was wrong, that's it. That way, the 2018 conditions stay in place. He has options that expire in 2028. And it all as if this case has never happened. That's obviously the best case scenario. For this case, us shareholders have already paid $3 billion up to 2022. The number of stocks has already been diluted. Everything is done. And that is the current status of Tesla's outstanding stock, Tesla's accounts. That's all what we assume will happen accounting wise. Then there's a second plan. As of a couple of months ago, the board of directors put a substitute plan in place if ever the first solution is cancelled, if the Chancery Court's verdict is confirmed. In that case, so we're talking about a total of 304 million shares. That's always the same number since 2018. And in that case, 96 million shares were already given to Elon a couple of weeks ago because they were still available in the pot of employee stock options that could be handed out. So those were given. And with these, which is actually a silver lining of all this, with these, Elon can already vote in this year's proxy. So there's always a silver lining. This is it. So the 96 of the 304 he already has. Now, if we win in the Supreme Court, he gives them back. He was able to vote for them, but he gives them back anyway. And then the second, the missing 208 million to get to the 304 million shares, we're voting on in this proxy. There is number 3. Is it number 3 or number 5? I don't remember. I think it's number 3 of the arguments, which says we want to top up this pot again, 208 additional restricted stock for Elon and 60 million new possible stock options for future employee bonuses. So those we're voting on. I'm very confident that this is voted on. And so if this happens, if the proxy goes through on November 6th, the substitute plan is in place. Elon has the voting rights for these, and he has them. And then we wait for the verdict. If the verdict is for Tesla, if we win it, well, then Elon gives it back and has his old package. Or if we lose, well, then the old package at $3 billion is dead, and we have to expense, not cash payment, but expense the $120 billion that the substitute package cost us.
Yeah.
I just real quick, Brian, I just don't like the fact that the majority voted and it wasn't upheld. And I just don't like the fact that the court just...
So wrong.
And that's the real thing. What I've been hoping for, what I've been waiting for, what I know is not always common in a courtroom, is for some grown-ups to get involved. And it feels like in the appeal, based on the questions that we're hearing the judges asking, is they are being the grown-ups. They're the adults here saying, wait, this doesn't make sense. You're trying to conflate things that do not go together. And you're trying to say that, Elon deserves $0. Me, third of a billion. Clearly I'm the one doing all the real work here. And the shareholders were hoodwinked. 73% voted yes. Let's revote it. Okay, see, 72%. Guys, the 72% voting now, for the most part, weren't even there for the first vote. We're people who came in after the fact and said, this is what I signed up for. My eyes were wide open. When I bought my shares in 2019, I knew this plan was there. And I said, you know what? It's crazy. It's so crazy. But if he can finish it, if he can do this, that means my tiny little amount of money will pay off the house. And that's where we are. So it's crazy to think that it's taken this long to find the adults, but having more than one judge sitting on the appeals panel means your odds have gotten better of excluding the one weirdo.
And live streamed. I think live stream makes a real difference when the world is there to see it, to hear it, to retape it, to repeat it. It's much better than when a transcript is published a couple of weeks later,
Right.
and you don't have the tone, you don't have the underlying. I mean, I read that transcript, I don't know how many times, but Amy was there. Amy was there for both her hearings. And Amy, when she came out, she said, I'm livid. I've never seen anything so, of the Chancery Court hearing, so mean, so nasty. She was one-sided. She laughed with the plaintiff's attorney. She was harsh with the Tesla's attorney. I mean, it was crazy. And that's just it. And I mean, it lasted for years. This case was brought in 2018, and we had our verdicts finally in 2024. There were depositions. The questioning she did of Ira Ehrenpreis, I read it again a couple of weeks ago. You cannot be nastier. I mean, it is crazy what she made our board go through, accusing them of being friends with Elon. I mean, why is this now? You invested your hard-earned money 15 years ago, and you're sitting on the board, but you should hate the guy. And she is the one deciding on whether you can have friendly relationships or not. There was so much wrong in the whole thing. It was the whole way this was rolled out. You just felt in a nightmare, in the wrong scenario. And you're completely right, Brian. There was no adult in the room, and whatever Tesla's lawyer did, and I'm not saying that their strategy in Chancery Court was perfect, because it never is. And in hindsight, you think, oh, maybe there should have been this. Like on the spot, you have to do what you have to do. But what they did in the Supreme Court was as good as it gets. As good as it gets. They were the right two attorneys to bring it forward. They were right to split their time. They had the attention of the court for 10 minutes each. They brought the subjects in. They destabilized the other side. He was bad. I mean, he was sweating when he arrived, and he was sweating more when he left. And when they came back and summed it up, always calm, demure, just perfect. It was the right setting, the right people, which also shows the quality of Tesla to choose the right attorneys, because this is not an easy game.
Right.
One quick question: why did they decide to live stream when they haven't before? Like, was there a reason?
Oh,
for
no.
that?
The Supreme Courts are always live streamed. They always have sessions on Wednesdays. So this was just the normal timing. And then an hour later, they go to the next one. That's why it's actually limited to an hour. Every hour, there is another case. So I don't know whether they all state all 5 of them, because they can do it with only 3 of them. But they have their Wednesday mornings busy with the Supreme Court cases. And in the Chancery Court, there is no live stream.
Okay. So, yeah, that's
Brought to you by Insta360.
exactly. No, I was joking. But yeah, no, that's really, really helpful. I think Brian or Hans or Joe, do you guys have any more questions or any things that you guys want to hash out on this?
No, that was really great, Alexandra. Thank you so much. You explained it very well. Even Hans had really great questions, and I love the pirates and pilfering analogy. Freaking great, man. But
Yeah, the last comment I'd want to make is that I think it is really important both for Delaware and for Tesla that the appeals court overturns the original decision for several reasons. I think it's important for Delaware. They basically had to write a whole law to bring Chancellor McCormick back in line and kind of a shot across her bow. And, that's not subtle in any way, shape, or form to the business community or to Chancellor McCormick or to the Delaware Court of Chancery, any of those things. But I think it's important that they go a step further and throw her decision out completely. And I also think that that's important for Tesla because one of the things in her decision, if it's allowed to stand, was, hey, we'll let you move to Texas, but if you move to Texas, you can't try anything there to basically get around the fact that I threw out your pay package here in Delaware. And, I think that the way that our current system is structured to make him whole for that pay package in Texas is somewhat in jeopardy based on the existing history with Delaware if her original decision is allowed to stand. And so, I think it's important, like I said, both for Delaware and for Tesla, that the original case just gets thrown out and that then everyone can kind of move forward in a much more stable way.
I would agree with that. I would say that if Delaware's message is, yes, we want companies here, but not if the CEOs get paid. We will fight against that unless your name is Peter Rawlinson, and then in that case, we're just going to let that slide. Hundreds of millions for no performance at all. That's not our jurisdiction. We don't care. So it's a crazy time in this whole landscape.
Yeah, the corruption and biases is too much.
It is, and I agree. And like I said at the opening, it's particularly important because he regrouped the 3 other cases that were still pending in Delaware. The name that we should keep in mind is the Employees Retirement System of Rhode Island, obviously not far from Delaware and about the same political direction. They were putting in question how Elon sold Tesla shares when he bought Twitter. That is the main topic of all that. So if her judgment in Tornetta stands, that also means, the whole superstar CEO question, the whole controlling interest question, all these stand. And they have to go. They have to go so that in this case, in the new case, they are not washed up again. So it is important we win this for many reasons, but also for the next case. And let's just all pray that it does. And thank you for having me. Loved having you. See you again. And bye-bye.
Bye.
One last question, Alexandra, for
Sure.
you. One last question. No, we just didn't have enough time with her. No, the last question is, okay, so let's say it rules in our favor, is there anything that they can appeal at that point or no?
Yeah. Yes.
So this could go on,
he can appeal.
Right?
He can appeal to the federal Supreme Court in Washington. Oh, well, he can try. He can try to appeal saying, oh, I had my 345 million all lined up and already a house booked and everything. And please hear this. Now, you have to know the federal Supreme Court hears 1% of the cases that are brought to them. 99% are rejected initially.
Wow.
So while I do believe there is a little chance that if Tesla loses and brings it forward, on the grounds of saying, look, this was not a fair shake, and this is actually important for corporate America to settle among adults and not among this kindergarten in Delaware. I do believe Tesla would have a chance to be heard. I do believe if it's him crying for his attorney fees, it's one of those that is going to be rejected, but he can try.
Okay. Well, if you aren't, please follow at Tesla Boomer Mama. She is an amazing person in the community, especially, these past couple of years, she's been probably the go-to person publicly that can speak about everything going on and then just rallying all of the shareholders for a lot of these big votes. She has been at the forefront of that. So please give her a follow. And, thank you again for your time today, Alexandra.
Thank you for having me, and vote if you haven't voted yet, because we have to vote for the next compensation package, right? It never ends. You take care. Love you all. Bye-bye.
All right.
What a delight. What a treat.
Yeah.
Very fortunate.
Man, people really, I mean, the fact what Amy has done and her being the mouthpiece for all of that is like just incredible. I mean, people really don't realize what's happening behind the scenes, man, and all that Amy is doing for all of us. You know, I mean, not the people who hate her and the people who love her. So, yeah,
It's
really,
it's
More
a
love.
huge amount of
Yeah.
her time, of her money, of her headspace, of her, what
yeah,
it's, just for us, doing it for us.
yeah. It's insane.
Yeah, what was interesting, I did talk to Amy yesterday, but we were just talking a little bit about how all of this stuff started and like how she kind of got public facing, and it all literally started on an X Spaces that we had talking about China like years back, and how it's led up to all of this, meeting all the people in the community.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, she's, literally sitting in the Delaware court, being one of the main
Representing, Tesla
yeah.
shareholders for all of us.
Yeah. Like I said, obviously in a lot of ways feels divine, the fact that just, meeting someone like her because of how much she has done for retail investors and really Tesla. And it's just crazy to think of all of that.
Yeah, people better put her face on Mount Rushmore of
Oh,
of
yeah.
investors.
Well, the people that follow the company will know, right?
Yeah,
I mean, nowadays, well, which I would say a lot of the investors are very tuned in. Not a lot of people, because of the amount of retail investors that they are. But I'm just talking shareholders. If you think of like 100 shareholders, I think Tesla has one of the highest retail investors out of any company, even historically. But long story short, retail investors are very engaged with what's going on, right? And that's what's very unique about the Tesla community, and it's people like Alexandra and Amy who can at least can build out these technical details and can be proactive and take action. And that's what's crazy about this community, and this company.
yeah.
All right, back into Tesla still being number one. It's like, all right, let's twist our brains from legal stuff.
Wow.
Sawyer put out a post about the 10 best selling vehicles in Q3 for 2025, and of course, no surprise here, as far as just especially because this was when the quarter was ending, and so the first two obviously are Tesla, and by almost like a huge amount. Like it's not. They really have made some big movements here, but it's 1 and 2 is the Model Y, Model 3. Then you got the Equinox, Hyundai, and then the Honda Prologue, and then followed by the Mustang Mach-E. But yeah, and I think the other thing to note is that, and again, I don't know if this will continue, especially given that there was this huge push to buy EVs at the end of this quarter because of the federal tax credit ending. But Tesla or EVs did reach a record of 10.5% of total vehicles sold in Q3, up from 8.6% last year.
That's awesome.
Brian.
Well, the critics are always going to make excuses. I haven't seen this one yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Well, of course, the Model Y sells so well. It's so much less than the cost of the average new car. Who wouldn't buy it? And to me, that just sounds like a great reason to buy it. The average car is about 50,000 now, and you can get a really good car that's electric that's less than that, and it's going to save you money over time, and it's going to save you the time you spend doing oil changes, all that headache. It's the value proposition is there. Whether or not people know that, I don't expect Q4 in the US to be as big as Q3 because a lot of the sales got pulled back. If the tax credit had been extended, if we found out at the end of September, fine, you have another quarter. I still think Q4 would be soft because a lot of those buyers moved to Q3. Now what we really need to do is educate, inform, butts in seats, let people know. I still have people that I meet, that I talk to, that I know, who believe a Tesla costs twice what it does. Oh my gosh, you must be rich. No, a lot of people have these now. They're actually quite affordable. That's where I think we need to go.
I always think that's a funny statement from people who buy trucks. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
That truck
I'm
cost
You spent
$70,000-$80,000.
yeah. Well,
What are you talking about?
It was the XLT edition. I'm not rich. I just have an $80,000 truck.
Yeah, that was well, so I watched a clip last night from, I think it was like NBC Bay Area or something, and they talked about how for the first time ever in like American history, or the US average for a new car is over $50,000. And they said, well, you do realize that the best-selling car is a Ford truck, which is average $65,000. So it's like, but I remember growing up, it was like, especially I'd go visit my grandma out in like East Texas. And you'd roll up, they would be literally, you'd see like a trailer home, and they would have literally like a Ford Raptor. And I'm like, it's like their payment for the house is like $400 or $500, but they got a $1,600 payment. So, I mean, it's just, it's wild, man. And I'm not saying everyone's like that, but people extend for these trucks. I'll put it that way. All right, Joe, I'll throw this one to you, man.
Yeah, we got some Steelies, boy. I'm not gonna say whether they're hideous or not, but I am gonna say a face only a mother would love. So
I think it's great that for once we've got a Tesla that people won't be eager to take the aero covers off of.
Finally, yeah. Joe Tetmeyer was showing like how many of these standard Model Ys are just piling up right now. It's freaking crazy. And then this is what they look like with the hubcaps removed. And finally, people will leave their hubcaps on, as Brian so eloquently put.
Yeah, I mean, at least from what I think we've heard from, I think even I think Lars actually posted a comment about the new wheels on the 3 and the Y. He actually said it was based on feedback from customers and inspiration from the Cybertruck. So the good thing is that we know that they didn't just make this up. They literally, wanted to mix things up. And it's not this design, it's the wheel cover that goes on top of it specifically. But this will also help you maximize range, that's for sure. And with the standard range, that's probably what you're looking to do. It's a commuter car. It's not like something you're necessarily going to trick out, but
yeah, Franz was on the podcast too, Ride to Lightning, and he was talking about like how it's more traditional looking for a vehicle and with the light bar missing and stuff like that.
18-inch wheels are still large wheels. That's what the base Model 3 has. The reason those still look more premium is because on a Model Y, an 18 looks smaller. It's a bulkier vehicle. But yeah, just give me, by switching to steel wheels, you're saving what, $1,000, $2,000, probably $1,200 a car is what you're saving at the cost of goods sold level. It is and it makes sense. Your tires are going to be cheaper to replace. When you softened the suspension a little, which they did, they didn't put in the fanciest suspension. Now you've got more sidewall to absorb it. It just makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And the upside is that Sandy Monroe will get to make a lot more money selling alternative wheel covers. And I honestly think that is going to be a big market with these. I think, for most people, this car has so much range to begin with that for, the vast majority of people who want this car, the range boost is not actually that important. So I think you'll actually see quite a few like alternative wheel covers that get sold for people who want to make them look more like they want it to look.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I guess I was thinking range, but yeah, you could be totally right.
Yeah.
All right, so we are seeing V14 roll out, but in the past week we've seen 2 new rollouts. Actually, really, I think since like Saturday, right? It's been like 15.4.1.1 and then 14.4.1.1 and 14.4.1.2. And it seems like we're seeing more and more of these things happening, right? So it's just like I said, the robotaxi software build that they have is starting to trickle into FSD supervised, and you're starting to see this become more and more real. I think also too, Mad Max mode was released, which I've been waiting for, because like a lot of times it's just I think even hurry is not fast enough, because it still gets stuck in the lanes when it's trying to switch over. So I haven't tried it, but and I think there's like AI driver. I think he's the only one publicly that I know has it in the Bay. There might be some others as well, but yeah, at least they've had 2 big releases in the past week.
Definitely Omar too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's down in LA.
And I know Zach has it, but I don't remember where he is right now.
LA.
LA.
Yeah. Yeah,
One
go
of the
ahead.
things that I wanted to say on this is that the fact that they're willing to roll out Mad Max mode on version 14 is a huge testament to how safe that they believe that the underlying stack is for version 14 to begin with. Like, you don't want to add incremental risk to the system at this stage unless you think that it's actually not adding any risk. And so the fact that they're willing to, move the vehicle a lot faster, have a lot more momentum, a lot more kinetic energy is something that's a big deal. And the feedback that we've seen from people who are actually driving with Mad Max say that it actually feels very, very safe, even when it's driving at these higher speeds, that the combination of confidence and assertiveness, when it will actually change lanes and cut in on someone versus when it won't, that it's just extremely, extremely proficient, and excellently done. So that's really cool to see. And then the other thing that I would say is, 3 different software updates inside of 2 weeks for version 14. Now, obviously, it's still for a pretty small select group of early testers. But that, I don't think we saw that many releases that fast for 12 or 13. I know not for 12, and I don't even think for 13 when it first rolled out. And so, they have these alternative versions that are in the wings that are ready to deploy when they see things. And I expect to see a lot of people get version 14 pretty quickly based on how fast they're rolling out these little updates.
Yeah, I can't wait to try, because even in hurry mode, I feel like it's making decisions that I would have made sometimes, and sometimes not. But I think that's probably where Mad Max mode is probably going to come in at. So that's going to be pretty exciting. We haven't got it yet on our Juniper, but
Yeah, even I'm waiting as a peasant for it to happen on the Cybertruck. At least on the Cybertruck, the biggest thing that needs to happen, and again, it's still when you drive long distances or really just on the highway, it still hugs if you're in the left lane, it still hugs. Yeah. Yes. And it still gets very sketchy sometimes. So a lot of times I'm just like, I don't want to find out. So I'm just going to turn this off, especially as, the wall will come in on some of those, even because it'll be like the lane marker plus the wall. And a lot of times I'll have to just disengage. So I'm hoping, some of that stuff will get fixed. Which will solve a lot of problems in itself.
I do expect that to be fixed. Obviously, we won't know until we see it, but Ashok specifically mentioned that there's going to be Cybertruck versions of 14 that roll out relatively quickly. And my assumption is that they have done a lot better job of generalizing version 14 across all the vehicle lineup, because they've got not just the Model 3 and the Y that it's obviously developed on and for and really good on version 13. But now they're thinking about, okay, we're doing that. Plus we're going to do the Cybercab. Eventually we're going to have this big robo-van. They really need to actually be able to port the same software to every single different vehicle much more quickly and much more easily. And I can't imagine that they haven't put a lot of effort into that for version 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to 14, especially on the truck. Sometimes I'm like, man, I feel like I just need a Model Y so I can get this these updates. But man, the truck getting that update's going to be awesome, and hopefully those things get fixed. But all right, so I think V14 visuals are going to get better and more realistic. I mean, whether it's garbage trucks, U-Haul vans, RVs potentially. So and it looks like even on the right, it's what is it, a stroller, a trailer, a 3-wheeler. I mean, you're talking lot of visualization coming.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that
thought
makes
these
sense.
were clues. These are all vehicles we're gonna get.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, they're gonna come out with a 3-wheeler.
Fortunately, Omar was helpful enough to say, guys, I am 99.99% sure that by next year, Megapack will have a steering wheel.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Freaking Farzad, man.
He's got to be joking. Farzad's got to be. It's got to be engagement.
Oh, he's trolling everybody now. It's hilarious, bro.
Yeah, but what it does is it fills my comment section with people who don't know that he's joking or.
He's not joking.
Yeah.
I don't think he is joking. I think
he's serious about Cybercab having a steering wheel.
He's like 70% serious, 30% trolling.
Neither way is good.
Well, we do know that I mean, I don't think it'll ship with it, but we do know that at least, based on their prototypes, they have access to putting it in, right? I mean, it's just been very clear.
I think on the next slide, when it was seen, the Cybercab was seen at the at Fremont, he was like, "How is it doing those maneuvers?" I was dying laughing.
Well, with that said, Joe, you might as well just hit us with this one.
Cybercab spotted. Yeah, Tesla's a fully autonomous Cybercab is back in the spotlight a year after its debut. So the upgraded 2-seater signals the big leaps. They made some changes here. It looks like they got updated camera placements and blinkers and things like that. And as you can see, the wheel covers are more realistic. It's pretty cool.
I mean, this is just the process.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and you're actually really good to talk about this, Brian. But when you get closer to actually making it on the real lines, you have to make the final decisions about exactly how everything goes together, where everything fits, and you're going to learn things in that process. And so the combination of that and then going through your crash testing, like that's where you cement the design of the car into what it's actually going to be. So take it away, Brian.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's the designers and then there's the engineers. And fortunately, Tesla's designers understand manufacturing in ways that designers at other companies don't. You'll see a lot of companies release these beautiful prototypes at car shows. And you walk up and look at it, you're like, well, there's no B pillar, so I don't know how you're going to make this truck work. And then you've got the windows are cartoonishly oversized. These would never roll down into a door. Well, we know with the Cybercab, they didn't do that. And that's Tesla's philosophy is if you look at the original prototype Model S versus production, at a glance, you'd never notice the difference. We would notice the difference because we've been living these cars for so long. Same with the Model 3, even the Cybertruck, which to my eye, I can spot all the differences quite easily. The spirit is still there. The DNA is still there. And for the Cybercab, that one, I don't know. I can't spot any specific differences, but you're right. When it comes down to actually making it more manufacturable, they might say this little fold here, this little tab that kind of looked good, or it causes a problem in assembly, get rid of it. So there's a lot of normalization that goes on, but that's still, if it's different, and it probably is, I can't tell. It still has the spirit.
Well, we from the X takeover, we did know that the version that came in August, or I guess in July now, was the latest version, and there were key differences. I mean, maybe internally, I don't know necessarily externally, but with Tesla, we saw the Cybertruck came out 5-6 years later, so we know that there was a lot of changes there. But with Tesla, this is a prototype that they made like 20 of back for the We Robot event a year ago. But they find better ways to do things as they're going, and as they're even probably learning from other vehicles they're building from other teams, because all those teams connect. I mean, every team has a chief designer, that has a chief program manager. I mean, and those teams are well connected with the other teams, if not moving on from one project to the next. I mean, you see that stuff happening all the time. But I can tell you right now that, there's going to be a lot of changes that we probably won't ever know about that are happening that are drawing even more efficiencies.
And one of the things that would have been a main difference between those first 20 prototypes that I think a lot of people will understand is those first prototypes, they weren't using, production gigacastings. And we've seen now that there are gigacastings that are being made at Fremont for the initial, validation runs of Cybercab production. And so, yeah, these new ones are going to be actually made with real gigacastings. And I don't know on the originals if they did like sand castings. You might have some insight onto that, Brian. Like, were they rear and front underbody castings at all, or did they just do some custom
steel tubing?
Yep.
It was a tube frame.
Yeah. So like those are going to be huge differences. That, they knew that they were going to cast it eventually. And that's just, it takes a lot of work to be able to do that. Investments of a lot of money to be able to create the tooling for those gigacasting machines. That's a big deal. So that is like the skeleton of the car, and then everything up from there, it's kind of going to be the same thing. It was produced using some process that you can do 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, 20 times. And now they're using completely different processes that can be done millions of times.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, there will be changes happening. So for people to think that a prototype is just a starting point. Okay, hold on. Let me back up here. Tesla makes a lot of cars. Joe, I think you hit the last one, but
we're on time.
Oh, geez. Okay. When you're having a good time, okay, whatever. I'll just end with this. Tesla
Anybody got an extra 45 minutes? No, I'm just kidding.
I know. I look. You said time, and I look up. It's 9:02. Oh man, when you're having good Tesla conversations. But yeah. So 500,000 vehicles. Literally in 180 days. There's they've gone from 400,000 to 500,000. So I know some people got a drop as well, but give everyone a follow here. FutureAza, Hans, SJV Tesla. Thank you guys again for being great co-hosts. Shout out to Insta360 for being a video sponsor. We'll post a link for that as well. And thank you again for your time. And we will catch you guys all next week.
Peace.